Imagine walking into your local pub, the one where you've celebrated birthdays, drowned sorrows, and debated whether England will ever win anything again, only to find a "closed permanently" sign on the door. Not because they ran out of beer, not because the landlord retired, but because Rachel Reeves decided their tax bill should increase by 63%. Welcome to Britain in 2026, where the Chancellor is systematically shutting down the very fabric of British social life, one business rate hike at a time, whilst simultaneously claiming businesses are feeling optimistic. Optimistic about what exactly? Their impending bankruptcy? Quick favor, if you're loving this brutal dissection of economic policy, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Over 94% of you haven't yet. It's free, takes literally 2 seconds, and helps us keep holding power to account. Cheers if you did. Right, back to this fiscal horror show. So let's set the scene properly, because what's happening here is genuinely shocking. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor who promised growth, stability and economic competence, has just delivered what critics are calling a high street tax that threatens to obliterate thousands of businesses across Britain. We're not talking about minor adjustments or slight increases. We're talking about pubs facing business rate rises of up to 63%, shops seeing bills jump by around 50%, restaurants more than 50%, and hotels facing increases of over 100%. 100%! Double their entire previous bill again on top. If that's not economic violence, I don't know what is. The Beer and Pub Association has crunched the numbers, and they're absolutely grim. The industry faces higher bills of £150 million every year, with 15,000 jobs at risk. That's 15,000 people who might lose their livelihoods because the Treasury decided that pubs, those institutions that have served communities for centuries, should pay through the nose for the privilege of existing. And here's the truly British bit of this story. One pub, the Marsh Inn in Rachel Reeves's own constituency of Leeds West and Pudsey, has banned the Chancellor from entering. They've literally told her she's not welcome. When your own constituents are barring you from their establishments, you might want to consider whether your policies are slightly unpopular. But here's where it gets even more twisted. The Treasury has admitted that tax relief, designed to help pubs cope with these massive increases, will slowly unwind over the next 3 years. Slowly unwind, that's government speak for "we're going to help you a tiny bit now, then gradually withdraw that help until you're facing the full horror of these tax rises." It's like throwing someone a life jacket, then slowly deflating it whilst telling them to swim harder. Treasury Minister Dan Tomlinson actually said, with a straight face presumably, that the government was phasing out help and slowly unwinding it over the coming 3 years. Phasing out help during a crisis. Brilliant strategy. Now, let's talk about Rachel Reeves's response to this mounting catastrophe, because it's genuinely remarkable. Last week, she promised that further support for pubs was planned, but has yet to provide any actual details. No timescales, no figures, no concrete proposals, just vague assurances that help is coming, trust me, eventually, maybe. Meanwhile, publicans are trying to make accounting decisions right now, trying to figure out whether they can afford to stay open, and the Chancellor is essentially saying, "I'll tell you later." That's not governance, that's procrastination with devastating consequences. But wait, because it gets worse. When asked about helping other high street businesses, like shops, hotels, cafes and restaurants, who face similar catastrophic rate rises, Reeves appeared to rule it out entirely. Speaking at the Davos Economic Summit, because naturally she's swanning around Switzerland whilst British businesses collapse, she said the situation pubs face is different from other parts of the hospitality sector. Different how exactly? Different because pubs have 4 walls and a bar, whilst cafes have 4 walls and a counter.
The entire hospitality sector is facing the same cost crisis, the same business rate hikes, the same employment cost increases from her own budget, but apparently only pubs deserve consideration, and even that consideration is being slowly unwound over 3 years. This sparked absolutely furious responses from industry leaders, and rightly so. Alan Simpson, chief executive of UK Hospitality, delivered a response that was professional but barely concealed the rage underneath. He pointed out that the entire hospitality sector faces the same cost challenges, from eye-watering business rates to soaring employment costs. Hotels, restaurants, cafes, they all face their business rate bills increasing by thousands, driven by the same massive increases to rateable values affecting pubs. These businesses employ 6 in 7 in hospitality, 6 in 7, and the Chancellor thinks their situation is somehow different and unworthy of support. Simpson warned that the government has one chance to get this right, and without a package of support for the entire sector, it will be too little, too late. That's not hyperbole, that's a prediction of mass closures across Britain's high streets. Shadow Chancellor Sir Mel Stride has been absolutely scathing, and frankly he's not wrong. He warned that Reeves's brutal high street tax is the difference between businesses staying open and shutting up shop in communities across the country. He pointed out that the Chancellor chose higher business rates over backing our high streets. That's a political choice, not an economic necessity. Stride accused Reeves of costing Britain jobs and said she was shutting up shop across the country. Strong language, but when you look at the numbers, it's hard to argue with the sentiment. Here's what makes this particularly explosive. It's not just the opposition tearing into Reeves. Her own Labour MPs are publicly expressing fury and concern about these policies. Liam Byrne, Labour chair of the Commons Business and Trade Committee, said tax rises are strangling hospitality businesses. Strangling. That's a Labour MP using that word about Labour policy. Dame Meg Hillier, Labour chair of the Treasury Committee, said many pubs in her constituency are seeing eye-watering increases in business rates. Again, Labour MPs describing Labour policy as eye-watering. When your own side is publicly criticising your flagship economic policies, you've got a serious problem. Labour backbencher Rachel Maskell pointed out that some little retail outlets are seeing their business rates rise by 93%, and they simply don't have the resilience to deal with it. 93%! Think about that. If your rent or mortgage suddenly increased by 93%, you'd be homeless. Yet small businesses are expected to absorb these increases and carry on as normal. Fellow Labour MP Toby Perkins urged the government to provide details of promised help for pubs, noting that many are really concerned and trying to make accounting decisions right now under the impression that further help is coming. They're operating in complete uncertainty, which is possibly the worst thing for business planning aside from actual bankruptcy. Kat Eccles, another Labour backbencher, made the crucial point that this isn't just about pubs, but all hospitality businesses, including music venues, which have been massively impacted by a perfect storm of new valuations, the end of COVID-related reliefs, and rising energy costs. Perfect storm is exactly right. These businesses survived a pandemic, survived lockdowns, survived energy price spikes, and now they're being finished off by their own government tax policy. It's like watching someone survive a shipwreck, swim to shore, crawl up the beach, and then get hit by a bus driven by the Chancellor. Let's break down why these increases are happening, because the mechanics matter. Business rates are calculated partly on the value of premises, and new property valuations come into effect on April 1st. So if your pub or restaurant's property value has increased, your business rates skyrocket, regardless of whether your actual business is doing well or struggling. You could be losing money hand over fist, but if your property is worth more on paper, congratulations, your tax bill just exploded. Additionally, a discount introduced to help hospitality businesses cope with the impact of the COVID pandemic is ending, so businesses are hit with a double whammy: massive valuation increases and the removal of COVID support. This isn't economic policy, it's economic brutality. The Beer and Pub Association's warning of £150 million in higher bills annually and 15,000 jobs at risk isn't scaremongering, it's basic mathematics. If costs go up dramatically and revenue doesn't increase correspondingly, businesses cut costs. That means redundancies, reduced hours, or closure. And when pubs close, it's not just about losing a place to drink. Pubs are community hubs, social centers, places where people gather, talk, build relationships. When a pub closes, particularly in a village or small town, it's a devastating blow to community cohesion. But apparently that's acceptable collateral damage in Rachel Reeves's economic master plan. Now let's address the sheer nerve of Reeves's comments at Davos. She insisted that businesses are feeling optimistic and positive about the year ahead. She claimed they're feeling good because we have the right plan for the economy. This whilst British businesses are publicly warning of closures, shedding jobs, and literally banning her from their premises. What businesses is she talking to? Because it's certainly not the hospitality sector, retail sector, or apparently anyone operating on an actual British high street. Perhaps she's been spending too much time with international financiers in swish ski resorts and not enough time talking to the small business owners whose livelihoods her policies are destroying. The disconnect is genuinely staggering. Reeves is presenting this image of economic confidence and business optimism, whilst back home, publicans are looking at 63% tax increases and wondering how they'll make next month's payroll. It's like Marie Antoinette territory. Let them pay business rates doesn't quite have the same ring to it, but the sentiment is similar. There's this extraordinary gap between the government's rhetoric about growth and opportunity and the lived reality of businesses facing extinction-level tax increases.